Hey everybody, it's your favorite nerd, Mike Meyers, with the Monday edition of the Mike Meyers Ask Mike Anything live stream. The goal of this live stream is to help those of us who are studying for our CompTIA certifications have an opportunity to talk to the myth, the man, the legend himself, moi, in terms of questions you might have in you're studying for primarily your CompTIA A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus, but we're certainly more than capable of looking outside of CompTIA. In fact, we're comfortable with a number of IT certifications across the board. Don't ask me about CI. Actually, you could ask me about CISSP too, but it wouldn't be my pride area. And with me today is my good friend and coworker, Richard Chapman of CyberNow Labs. Richard, welcome aboard, sir.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me.
So I've been trying to get you onto this channel for a while, so I'm very, very excited to have you in here. I need to warn you a couple things, Richard. This is a pretty toothsome group, to say the least.
Okay.
I'm looking on, we got some dangerous people here. Well, basically, the two most dangerous people always jump on a little early, and that is most certainly my good friend Andre the Belgian, as well as Toluit the crazy Hawaiian. Be careful with these guys. Richard, by any chance, are you monitoring the YouTube channel itself, or are you just...
I am not monitoring the YouTube channel at the moment.
Okay, well, no problem. Then what will happen here, Richard, this is the whole goal of this AMA mainly is to just as a question answering thing. When we started this a couple of years ago, when Corona really hit, and it was really just for everybody being isolated with the Corona, and they needed a place to work together. And so we're looking to make it blow and grow beyond that these days. And that's why you are here. So guys, I need to stress, first of all, Richard and I work for the same company, National Cyber Group. Richard originally was with CyberNow Labs. Me, of course, Total Seminars, and now we actually work for the same company, and our checks have the same name on it. Of course, everybody's direct deposit these days. Nobody even knows what I'm talking about. What do you mean your check has the same name?
Does anybody even know what a check is anymore?
So I was actually in a grocery store. This really happened, Richard. I was in a grocery store quite recently, and for some reason I had to write a check. Almost never happens, right?
Wow.
So I'm writing a check, and I write down the date. And I write like August 17th, 1997. I don't even know where that came from, but Toluit knows where it came from. Old age, Parkinson's.
If I had to guess, your check probably actually started off with the date 19. You know how they fill in the first two digits? I bet you it started off with 19.
I just happen to have my checkbook here. Nah, they quit doing that. I was going to hold my checkbook up and go, that'd be a great idea. Let's just give everybody my routing number and my account number. Oh, my goodness. All right, well, let's see who's on real quick before we get to it started. Guys, before we even get that started, do keep in mind that Richard is here we're going to be discussing basically why people are getting into the world of IT security today. Richard's far more on that edge of the universe than I am. But also do keep in mind, as always, we're here to answer questions. If you have any questions on any topic, just type it right into the chat window. While we're at it, if you take a look at that chat window up at the top where it says Top Chat, hit the pull down and set that to live chat to get the YouTube algorithm out of our way. And then secondarily, make sure that you have a timestamp. We do have we give away practice questions, and we use those timestamps as part of that. So if you don't see a little timestamp next to each little post in the chat, you'll see the 3 ellipses on the far right-hand side or the 1 ellipse, and hit that, and then you can toggle your timestamp on and off. So if you want to compete, make sure you're doing that one as well. So, all right, with that understanding in mind, let's see who's on. So, Richard, some of these folks are like old home week for me, so you have to bear with me a little bit. So I just want to say hellos to Andre, Richard Reeves, massive earthquake just hit Mexico. I'll check that out. Guru Chaz here. Hey, man, we got a question already. Don't answer it yet, Richard, but be ready. Has anyone here taken the cybersecurity class yet or is currently? Well, guys, not only some of us have, but this gentleman in the blue shirt teaches the cohorts along with other instructors, of course. But you literally, Guru Chaz, get to speak directly to the man, my man, Richard Chapman. So let's put a pin in that for just a moment. See who else is on. David Rush is here. Void Walking, Steve is IT. Good to see you again. Mike Sedgeworth, man, good to see you again. Got to watch out for this Mike guy, Richard. He's dangerous. Good tech. Ask good tech questions. Betland, good to see you, Betland. Lester. Okay, we got a good group of folks here. I'm not going to name off every name. Bearded Rob, good to see you, man. So I had an interesting, Richard. I had an interesting email, and I have a response to this email already, but I'm just nosy what your response would be. And it was, "Dear Mike."
Is this a trap?
I don't intend for it to be a trap. However, if it comes off trap-like, just say this is a trap. But that's not my goal. Okay. This guy was complaining nicely and constructively that I didn't cover enough, that my practice questions, and in particular, I think this was for A+. I didn't cover it all. And then what he saw in the exam was very different. Well, this is a trap, isn't it? I'm totally trapping you on this one.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to have to answer it then, because it was easy. So what happens?
Okay. I can still try to answer. I mean, go ahead and what's your question? I'll give it a stab.
What's wrong with Mike's test bank? Because obviously I took the test and he missed a bunch of things.
It's one thing I will say about CompTIA is they have a very large bank of questions. And it's tough to cover every single question that they could ask, but if you can understand the concepts, that is the important thing, because you can work yourself through the exam questions. If you know the concepts, you can take it step by step and go, okay, these two answers are out. These don't make sense because these have nothing to do with this topic. But these two might be more appropriate. Now I just have to decide which one's the right answer and why. So I think conceptually, you can only do so much. You know what I mean? And they're constantly adding more questions to the bank as well. It's not a static bank of questions.
Well, in particular for A+, which is, some of those questions are 20 years old.
Yeah.
So my response, see, I start talking, I start yawning, and my nose itches. I can go all day with, it's a thing now. My answer, which isn't contradicting to what you say, but is another answer, is that, people tell me that, I didn't cover this or that or the other. So I'll go through my entire test bank, and there are questions on this, that, and the other. So I feel like I count it. But we actually have done studies at Total Seminars where we, using our own in-house test bank, ask testers, look for questions on this, that, or the other, and have them take a 90-question exam, and nobody can remember anything. I mean, they can't remember anything. So I'll intentionally pepper a test with, let's say, virtual machine questions. And I'll have good quality trained people come out going, well, I didn't see any of it. And they're literally in there, because we set up the 90 questions. So when I see stuff like that, I take it with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek attitude.
I mean, you kind of have to a certain degree.
Now, if I was getting complaints like this every week, then I'd start thinking about it. But in general, I think we do a pretty good job covering things. So
it's tough. It's tough to be, what one would say is 100% efficient, 100% effective. I mean, you have so many different people, learning styles, it's really, really tough to make a perfect response, a perfect test, a perfect whatever for everybody.
Yeah, and that's always a big challenge in terms of how do you structure that kind of stuff. People read differently, people look at things differently. It can be a bit of a challenge. So generally my rule is, because very few people will tell me that they passed, not nearly enough. Everybody tells me if they fail, and that's fine. But I almost wish there was some way that if you took every time you took a CompTIA exam, pass or fail, I'd get a notice on it. I don't get that. So I have to kind of go with empirical data. And it literally is things like, if I only get one complaint every 2 months or so, then I don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're constantly, we're constantly updating our test banks, just as CompTIA is. But so it can be a challenge. Well, as you can tell, Richard, I'm a little bit frustrated about that right now.
I
I
would
will
be too.
survive.
I would be too, because you're a lot like me. I think you want everybody to be as successful as they possibly can, and you do everything within your power to do that. It's the same in our program as well too. You know, our plan works exceptionally well, and we tell people all the time, you know, if you work the plan works. I mean, it's just kind of how it is. You're always going to get people that try to recreate the wheel. And you are always going to get people that the plan maybe doesn't work as well for because of this or that. So, but you have a desire to help everybody, and you want everybody to be successful that engages in your program. And I can identify with that completely.
Sure, sure. Oh, I always hate it when like rock bands start playing songs about how hard it is to be on the road. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares? Or, you know, actors are like, we're here for the applause. And it's like, you guys are just performing to yourselves. And you realize I'm doing the same thing right now. Here I am on this small little forum complaining, you know, oh, it's hard to write questions that are good. Yep. So let's stop and get back in. Told it's like going like this. Oh God, TD Washington's here. Be careful about what you say.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I'm kidding. So Patricia Grace, two bald guys. Patricia, you've already seen. Yes, Richard and I are doing another thing through CyberNow Labs called Two Bald Guys or Two Bald Nerds. We're still working on a solid final name for that, but we'll get there.
I can't imagine where they got the name from. I can't see it.
Well, you know, the problem is we have to be careful because if we put our heads together, we just make an ass out of ourselves anyway. So
that's very true.
That's very true.
Very, very shiny one as well. We're digressing over here.
only Dave Rush says two goatees.
Two goatee. I think that might be worse. The Gleam team. Oh, you got to be kidding me. I am monitoring the chat now, by the way.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. All right. The Gleam team. That's totally it. And Patricia Grace is running a close third to my old geezer. She's an old geezer too at this point in the game. All right, well, let's dive into this, guys. So again, we're going to be talking about really why do a career in IT security, and Richard is an excellent source for getting that type of information. If you ever want to talk to Richard, send me an email. Let me put my email up there real quick. Or I'll let Dave Rush. Dave, if you could put my email in there and then contact me, and I'm sure Richard will be glad to talk to you. I just need to act as a filter because he's a busy guy, folks. So we got to be fair to him. Okay, Dave, thanks for putting that up. All right, great. So we actually have people who are responding to the things I said, Richard. Where is it? It must be me. I'm always handy. You could send out surveys. How many people do surveys? I don't do surveys. Richard, do you ever do a survey?
Yeah, actually, we are right now reviewing a survey that we sent out a week ago, and we've had about 25% participation.
Wow, I have to remember that.
It's crazy. It's a 3-question survey, by the way.
Well, that makes it better.
I mean, it's 3 questions. It takes longer to brush your teeth.
I can brush my teeth in about 10 seconds. What do you mean? I'm kidding.
If you're doing it the right way.
Now, I finally got one of those sonic brushes that every 30 seconds, you brush like 1/4 of your teeth, and then after 30 seconds it goes beep, and you move to the next.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Technology.
Yeah, so that was the other thing that drove me. I'm sorry, I'm going to sidebar on this. So we got this. I don't remember what famous brand of the electric toothbrush it is, but it's not. It's Sonic. It's like Sonicare, right? And the latest version of this toothbrush came out, and in order to get the warranty, you had to log online. The toothbrush has Wi-Fi. And I'm just like, nope. I just noped that one and got the older version. I mean, come on, guys.
No, not at all. No.
I think everybody needs to read the first 10 pages of the novel 1984.
Didn't they remove that from a lot of schools and libraries?
I don't.
I'm not. Yeah. Well,
I don't. It's tough
Brave
to
New
live in a state like Texas sometimes. I will say that. All right. All right. So we're looking for some questions here. All right. So in fact, we've even got people complaining that I skipped their question. And the person's name is Faisal. Faisal, we don't skip questions. We just don't see them, you know? Here we go, real quick. I'm CCNA certified. Do you recommend to take the CCNP Enterprise Design for anyone who's planning to be hired by ISP and will manage different vendors? You're never going to lose with a CCNP Enterprise cert. It's a great cert. It's hairy, man. It is a hairy certification. The fact that you're being hired by an ISP, yeah, I think that would be a good cert. Keep in mind, the only reason you're going for Cisco, the only reason you should ever go for Cisco is because you're going to be supporting Cisco stuff. I do not find Cisco certifications to be helpful in the overall scheme of how does a technology work, for example. But pretty much everybody uses Cisco to a high degree, and I'd say you'd be fine with that. So the other one was a question from earlier. This is Guru Chaz, Richard. And
Okay.
has anyone here taken the cybersecurity class yet or is currently? We're not going to see a lot of people who are taking the cybersecurity class here. Where do your students hang out, Richard?
Everywhere. Our students are all over the world. Our environment is virtual, so
no, but I mean, in that virtual world, what I know you're using Discord, for example.
Actually, Slack. Slack is our main chat platform for our analysts.
I'm just going to guess here. Is this the kind of thing where nosy students of mine could stick their nose in and do stuff, or?
Not at the moment.
Hey guys, you got to remember, we're still pretty new at all this. We just really formed this company in June, so we're still working some kinks. But I got to tell you, Richard, does that sound like not possibly a good idea?
Yeah, maybe to give people the ability to pop in and kind of look through the viewing glass, kind of like looking into a fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think that's what you and I are trying to do a lot right now with our, bald heads here, is just try to give people a view into the environment. Because
sure.
Yeah.
But if you've got any questions, Guru Chaz, I mean, you got the man right here. So you're always welcome to ask if you'd like. All right. Guru Chaz, pop back up. I was mainly wondering if there is a way for prospects to sit in on a class and observe.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we can make that happen. As a matter of fact, if you'll go ahead and send an email to Mike, and what we can do is try to get you in contact, have him, get all those contacts and get them over to me, and then we can see if we can do like a special event where we, invite you into the class. That way you can kind of sit in and see what it looks like, get a feel for it, and go from there. Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
I couldn't say, I'd probably sit in on it too. So
yeah, basically audit the class, so to speak.
Basically audit the class. Exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. All right. So Guru Chess feels that we have answered that. And there's my email getting popped up. Avocado has a question. 2:17 p.m. I'm pretty hesitant of going into security as I feel the consequences of making mistakes is much higher. Like when you see big companies hacks in the news. Any thoughts on that, Richard?
A tremendous amount. Every analyst that I have worked with has gone through that time period where they go, I know so much, but I don't know anywhere near enough. And they kind of hit a point where they're nervous about making a distinction on an attack, whether it's actually a legitimate attack or whether it's, a false positive that you need to try to, engineer out or something like that. But at the end of the day, there are mechanisms in place to make it easy to make those decisions and those determinations. We have playbooks or run books, which are there to help you make a decision if you get stuck. We also are highly collaborative, so we work together exceptionally well. And then there's also escalation procedures as well too, to where if you're not sure, you have people above you who you're able to work with and say, here's what I see, this is what I know, this is what I think. Can you, help me out? Tell me if I'm missing something. Give me some guidance so I can ensure that we don't have an issue. I think the biggest challenge in situations where somebody thinks that they know everything and they make all decisions on their own and they don't want to collaborate. Collaboration is exceptionally important in cybersecurity, and yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a situation where a first or even second level tech was put into a level of not only responsibility, but of accountability at that level. The person who has to panic is his boss or his boss's boss. That tends to be, especially when it's a particular incident and there's clear steps that that we're following, right? Because like you said, your playbooks and such generally tell us what to do. But when there's situations where lack of training or situational awareness that is not the analyst's fault, is it's good. Yeah, it's somebody above you. I would not worry about that. And plus, heck, as a entry-level screwdriver technician, I've destroyed hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment with just my trusty number 2 Phillips. So,
Actually, it's kind of funny. When I first started in my first SOC position, my SOC manager was actually an amazing person. And I can tell you that the guidance that I received from my SOC manager was, break it, I challenge you. And that was good advice. I loved it. It was fantastic.
That's what when I was learning to fly, and my instructor would be like, Mike, have the stick. And I go, what if I mess up? And the instructor looks at me, he goes, there is nothing you can do to this aircraft that I can't fix in about 6 to 7 seconds maximum. So guys, do keep in mind, just because you are kind enough to show up today, we're offering you a 50% discount on bundles of my ebooks and practice questions. Here at Total Seminars, we call our practice questions the Total Tester. So I'm already about the cheapest in the industry. So all you need to do is, just because you're nice enough to show up here, go over to my website, www.totalsem.com. That's TOTALSEM.com. Head over to the merchant area, and let's say you're interested in Network Plus. Grab the Network Plus ebook, and then grab the Network Plus Total Tester. Drop those in your cart, and just before you check out, type in the word twist, as in Oliver Twist, and you get a 50% discount. I'm already the cheapest of the good stuff, and it's even that much cheaper. So, and that's for anybody. That's not the contest. That's just because you're nice enough to show up. So please take advantage of that offer. We get a lot of people take advantage of that offer. Oh, Don O'Dingan just popped in. Outstanding. Okay. You ready to do this, Richard?
Well, it depends on what this is.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
begin the topic du jour.
Topic du jour. Yes.
Now I will speak with my French accent, quoi.
No wonder he's always looking at other girls.
Oh my gosh. I'm hooked on casual games. Ignore me. No, I'm serious. No, I got to show you.
Yeah.
No, it's hilarious.
Is that a color by number?
It is.
That's awesome.
I do it without thinking. I got 6, 7 things going on in my head simultaneously.
It's funny. It's funny, actually. I don't do a lot of gaming anymore because the games have gotten so complex. I miss the old days of gaming where if I got tired of playing, I could just walk up and push the power button, and it wouldn't bother me at all. These games are so intensive now. Like, oh, I got to play for 2 more hours to get to this checkpoint before I do anything else.
Oh, well, I always basically my secret for those types of games is you grab the power cord, pull the power cord out of the wall, take the system unit and throw it through a window. Yeah, it usually works pretty good for me.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to modify our question, because basically the question for today, Richard, that I'd like you to drive on is why an IT security degree? But I would like to make one small change to that and address it, if you could, is, not only why, but what is IT security training? I think there's a lot of confusion on this, and I would be very interested to hear your opinion on that. So not only why, but what is IT security training today. What does that mean?
IT security comes in a lot of different forms. I mean, everything from self-study to boot camps to intensive immersion programs to degree programs like you're talking about where you spend multiple years. So there's a lot of different ways to get into it. It's really kind of like, what's your flavor? Kind of, it's like going to Baskin Robbins, ice cream. You got 31 flavors there. There's a lot of different ways to go. So it depends on what you want to do.
And I think that, so what are some of like the big chunks of IT security knowledge? Like, for example, Cyber Now Labs provides training for people to become SOC analysts, right?
Yeah.
But that's certainly not all that is IT security. No. What are some of the other just big chunks, Richard?
Well, a lot of the different chunks actually fall within the SOC mentality, though. So, vulnerability and analysis, network security, security operations center in and of itself is almost like an all-encompassing. You've got threat hunters, you've got threat intelligence. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go if you're talking about just the security part.
Sure, you've got governance, right?
Yep, you got
somebody's
risk,
running that. The CISSPs. You've got audit, right?
Yep.
The audit people, which to me is like the most painful form of IT security there is. But the audit people I've met love it.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the big thing that people need to remember is that national cyber groups through Cyber Now Labs provides a very specific form of training that is only one small piece, right? So we stay in our lane here because this is what we do best. So with that attitude in mind, Richard, that we have, why do what you're doing and what would be my alternatives? Let's say I want to get there, but I don't want to use Cyber Now Labs. So back to the original question now, what are our options in IT security training, and how does Cyber Now Labs fit into that? How does that sound?
Okay, that's about a multi-headed question here.
That's all I do.
I know, right? Let's not make it easy. Let's make it difficult on Richard, right? As far as, like I said a minute ago, there's a lot of different ways you can go. Depending on what your style is, how you learn, that can dictate which avenue you go. Where you go is a totally different question, though. Like, what are you wanting to do? I personally think that IT security is a good long-term, solid career option, no matter where you go, just because every single day, technology is being integrated into everything we do. Perfect example, your silly toothbrush earlier, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if we can throw a chip in it, if we can connect it to Wi-Fi, do it. Why? Because we can. So that creates a lot of opportunities, right? In many different ways, whether it's the design of the boards, whether it's the programming, whether it's the security aspect. I mean, there's just so many different routes that you can go. Again, it depends on, I think, how quick you want to get into it. Depends on what your background is. Also, it can depend on how much money you want to spend as well. There's a lot of different things to consider, and each and every person is different, and there isn't a one size fits all kind of scenario. That being said, comparing all the different routes that are out there, I tend to think that the route that I chose, which actually is the route that I recommend for people every single day, which is to go through a program like ours. It's a very intensive program. It does prepare you, and it's, in my opinion, very cost effective when you compare it to other things. So I think I got most of the answers. For
I think you did. So, the money's always a big thing, because so many of us are used to self-study where we're dropping a couple of $100 on some study material, study on our own, watch some videos, and then go take a certification. So our program costs $6,800 MSRP. Now there are some discounts in there for veterans and payment deals. We don't get into these loans, folks, so that's not going to happen here. But why would somebody who's serious about getting into IT security, I want to move money off to the side for a minute. Let's pretend like we all got $1 million. Who would you not want to see in your program?
So thinking about who I wouldn't want to see, I have to think about the type of people that I do see that are good. You definitely have to want to protect people. You have to like computers. You have to actually want to be someone who is going to work and be engaged. It is a constant learning environment. So learning can't be something that you want to be a one and done kind of situation, because there's always advanced threats. There's always emerging threats. So it's not a constant all the time, like you can learn it one time and be done and do that exact same job. It's not like a line job at a factory where you learn how to do one task and you just do that task for the next 20 years. Now, generally in the overall scope of things, you're going to do the same kind of stuff, but there's a lot of different ways to look at that activity and use that knowledge every single day. So I would not want to see people who don't care about keeping people protected, who don't care about information security, which I think most people actually do care about that. I would definitely want people who want to work. There's a lot of collaboration. I mentioned that earlier, but there's also a lot of independent time where you're working on your own as an analyst, thinking through investigations. So you have to want to and kind of be able to do both, work independently and collaboratively. So I wouldn't want someone who's maybe completely one-sided, like all they want to do is work with a team, or all they want to do is work independently. And I guess, I wouldn't want somebody who doesn't want to make good money and have a good solid career.
I definitely think capitalism is an important thing, especially when you're, like the Cyber Labs program, even though it's an evenings and weekends program, it's an intense program. And
it is.
So let's assume like you have a full-time job and then you're doing this on top of that. 70, 80 hours a week's probably not unrealistic, Richard. I mean, between your real job and throw 40 hours a week in for your regular job.
No, probably 60, 65. But
Right,
it's 20 weeks. It's 20 weeks, so it's not a long period of time. Now, if you can put more time, absolutely. You can 100% shorten your learning process, hands down.
All right, perfect. And that's the way I look at it too. We're not the only game in town right now, which I find a compliment. I think when it comes to any form of training, a lot of times people sit there and go, "Oh, Mike Meyers is the only A+ training." No, sir, I am not by a long shot. Lots of other training out there, but there's so many different learning styles out there that it actually benefits me to have competitors out there within A+. And I would assume that it's the same thing for us with SOC training, is that I'm not going to be nice enough to name our competitors, but I will say that I like having it out there because we get ideas from them all the time. Nothing wrong with that. And it's like a restaurant on the street is going to do okay, but 3 restaurants on the same street, all the restaurants do the same. And with the level of demand being as outrageous as it is, it's just it's good to see that much out there of us and our competitors as well, because we need all of us. It's too much of a gap. We wouldn't be able to do.
You're exactly right. That's the thing. We can be one of many, and it's not a problem, because even with us being one of many, there's no way we're going to fill the gap. The gap is so large, it's almost unbelievable. Since 2019, the gap has grown from like 320,000 open cybersecurity jobs to like 730. It's absolutely absurd. And again, a lot of this comes from that technology addition. Everything's technology driven. Everything's in the cloud. There's so much data being sent all over the place that the security is a growing need, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. So yeah, we can absolutely be one of the many, and it's not a problem. And I would challenge anybody on the call, if they're interested in getting into cybersecurity, check out the other companies. Go for it. We all do a good job. I think some do better. Some have more engaging environments and more real environments, but every single one's a little bit different, and you have to pick the right one for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, we are substantially cheaper than anybody else out there. So
Less expensive. We're not cheaper. Because I'll be honest, the only reason why I say that is because literally I think it devalues the program. Our program should literally be $14,000 or $15,000 every. I stand by that all day long. And the reason why I stand by that is because when I compare what we do compared to some of the other programs that do charge $10,000 to $12,000, it really is a big difference. So, but that's me. That's my opinion.
I like it. All right. So
I did see a question that I can answer.
go for it.
There was a question actually about the grind and wanted to know about the stress level and things like that. Just so you know, I've always loved technology. It's always been a part of my life. When I got out of high school, I actually started to go to school for technology. To be perfectly blunt, I went to engineering school and the math destroyed me. I was an 18-year-old kid who could not handle it. And I took a step away and had a business career for 20 years and made a career change into cybersecurity. And I will tell you this, I worked 60 to 80 hours a week, most of my adult life in the retail and business world. And I have not had anywhere near the amount of stress in cybersecurity that I had in my previous career. It can be stressful at times. Any job can, okay? New tool, new procedure, new policy, major attack, right? That stuff does happen. But in the grand scheme of things, man, best work-life balance I've ever had in my life, hands down. So. Yeah,
I've never heard a lot of complaints from the IT security guys about being under pressure. Not that I've heard from lots of other, try being a cop for a while, nor have I heard that IT security is that much pressure compared to almost any other IT career, in my opinion. So I'm completely with you, and I'm on board with you there too, Richard. I don't think it's a stressful job. I do think you need to be the person who's got some amount of organization, disorganized people like me, and I am a very disorganized person. I'm so glad you can't see my desk right now, and I've cleaned it. I'm not so sure I'd make the best SOC analyst. Sometimes I wonder about that, but you have procedure.
I might disagree with you, and I'll tell you why.
All right.
SOC analysts are not like in a box. Like there's not like an off-the-shelf SOC analyst, cookie cutter situation. I have seen very disorganized people be amazing analysts because their brains don't work the way mine does. They look at things differently. They can see things from a different angle. They can have a different thought process that I might not ever have because I happen to be a very organized person as well. I'm a Virgo. It's who I am. It's literally part of my DNA if you believe that stuff, right? So at the end of the day, different people, different backgrounds, different strengths can be very, very beneficial as a SOC analyst.
And it is there's actually a side conversation between It Must Be Me and Dave Rush on here where Dave's pushing the passion concept and working, 12 or 16 hours a day. And It Must Be Me was like, good for you, buddy. He didn't write the rest, but I think the rest, I'm going to speculate what It Must Be Me was going to say is, I got other things I want to do. So yeah, they're all good. Either way you want to do stuff. I think in general in life, Richard, I do a big push on follow your passion. That's always been something I enjoy. And when people ask me if I retired 25 years ago. But that's kind of, that's my attitude on that. We'll go with that. Hey, I'll tell you what, you want to do a contest real quick, Richard?
Yeah. You're going to give some away?
Oh yeah. We do this every day, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. All right, guys.
As long as you're not giving me away, we're okay.
I'm giving away a free dream date with Richard Chapman.
That's a bad idea.
And we're going to call this competition Don't Tell His Wife. All right, but anyway, guys, let's do a quick competition. Now, folks, I see a lot of new faces on today, so let me give a quick rundown. Number one, this competition is not fair, okay? I'd like for it to be fair. I try to make it fair, but unfairness happens. So you know, one of the things I love about nerds is that the moment you put anything for free down there, they're all like piranhas. Okay. So they'll come up with reasons why they should have won. And all that. Bottom line is I get to call the shot, and whoever wins, wins. And if you lose, I said so. The nice part is come on, folks. We rarely have more than 100 people on here. If you don't win, just come back. You know, in fact, we have so many people on here. You're going to see this when I'm about to give out a question. Whoever types it into the chat window first wins. But you're going to see a lot of people. They're going to type in something, an answer, and then they're going to type in pass. The reason they're doing that is because they've won a bunch and they're just being nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this. All right, Richard, you're going to have to help me here, bud. You have to help me. Who gives the first right answer? So all we're doing is watching the chat window. All right, here we go. You guys ready? Here we go. Have your fingers on your keyboard. Get ready to type this in. The first person who types in the answer to my satisfaction is going to win. You guys ready? Richard is installing a new type of virtualization software. What's interesting with this virtualization software is he installs it onto a bare system. The system there's no operating system. There's nothing. It's blank hard drive, and he's going to install some virtualization software on it. Now, obviously, this virtualization software is we call these hypervisors. So there are two kinds of hypervisors. There's type 1 hypervisors and type 2 hypervisors. Given the description I just said, is Richard installing a type 1 hypervisor or type 2 hypervisor? Type it in now. Don, you're a ringer. I'm not going to let you win again, man. Oh, come on, Andre. You're a ringer too.
How about Rocky?
Let's give it to people are typing in. I say we got it. It's type 1, right? So like VMware would be a type 1 hypervisor. VMware's ESX would be a type 1 hypervisor. What's Microsoft's? I've gone blank. The built-in one. So embarrassing. Somebody will type it in just a second. Hyper-V, that's it. Thank you, Dave. So like with Windows, Hyper-V, you run it. I got to be careful. Okay, so VMware would be one example of a type 1 hypervisor. VirtualBox by Oracle would be an example of a type 2. With the type 2 hypervisor, you've already got Windows installed or Linux or something, and you put it on top, right? Or if you're a Mac person, Parallels, that would be a type 2. But Hyper-V is an interesting beast because Hyper-V looks like a type 2, but it ain't. As many people have found out the hard way when they're playing with virtual machines, they'll install Hyper-V onto a Windows desktop system only to discover that Windows takes all of your Windows, rips it out, slides Hyper-V underneath it as a type 1 hypervisor, and plops your entire operating system back in as a VM, and they barely tell you they even did it, which is very exciting for a lot of people who suddenly discover that they've installed Hyper-V, and then they want to install something like VirtualBox, and they're like, why doesn't this work? It's because it's very challenging to run a VM within a VM. It can be done, but you got to be careful about that. Tolwit, wait, I thought a VirtualBox is what your Steam games came in. Yeah, virtually. All right, so we're going to give it to Rocky. All right, Rocky, congratulations. You have won 90-day free access to the practice questions of your choice on Total Seminars. So, Rocky, here's what you got to do. Number one, you got to send an email. In fact, Dave Rush has got this all in the chat window. Rocky, send an email to Dave Rush. That's Dave R at total7.com. Send him an email. In that email, be sure to add your YouTube name. Be sure to add your email address, even though it's an email and you have a return on the email. I still want you to put your email address in the email. Number three, tell us what you want, and then we will get that out to you. Keep in mind that your email address is actually your logon. We will simply send you an email giving you a temporary password, and you've got it. Did Al Mulford try to sneak in? Does you guys know who Al Mulford is? Okay, not only is Al Mulford a hippie, but he's also my brother-in-law, and he hangs out in southern Texas, Rockport, Texas, and it's always good to see her. Dude, I swear I'm going to come out. I want to catch some specs, but it is too hot in Texas right now to fish. I love VirtualBox too, Edgar. I live on it. It's a very, very powerful tool. All right, now guys, do keep in mind that this is I'm sure we can get Richard to come back from time to time, but right now, if you have more questions in particular about IT security, about it as a career, about CyberNow Labs as a course, about Richard's favorite kind of bourbon, this is your opportunity to ask these kinds of questions. I could always get Richard back, but we got him right here, right now. And if you have questions, this is the opportunity. And by the way, Rocky, congratulations to you. Guys, if you didn't win, no big deal. Just come back Wednesday. We'll do it all over again. So we're always giving away stuff. Bearded Rob liked my question. All right, guys, I'm looking for any particular answer. We only have 15 more minutes here, guys. So remember, we go from 2 o'clock or until 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time, or unless the questions run out. So if it quiets down a little bit, we're going to go ahead and bug out. I don't want to say early. It's funny, Richard. We've had 10-minute ones, and then we've had 2.5-hour ones. It just depends on what people are asking about. But it seems that most people are pretty happy with our questions. Edgar Salinas grew up 15 minutes away from there. I don't know where that would be. Here we go. Here's my buddy Mike at 246. Richard, I'm going to just hand this to you. What are the most important certs to be successful in security?
Didn't we just have this discussion the other day?
Yeah, but not with these guys, I don't think.
Yeah, no, we obviously focus primarily on Security Plus, which, kind of an entry level, but we discussed also Network Plus as a good one for sure. Just because you get a good basis of networking, understanding the OSI layers, understanding where all the traffic is and so forth, and then pairing that with the security aspect of Security Plus. So kind of a little bit of a broad scope there. Those are good certs to get started. And then depending on which direction you're going to go, then that's kind of where you really have to go, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to really focus on the analyst side? Am I going to go to, pen testing? Am I going to go red team? Or am I going to take my business background and go to management and try to go that route? I mean, it just depends on what you like. Starting off with the defensive mentality is kind of a good base, and then you can branch out from there.
And to add what Richard said, keep in mind, there's over 750 IT security certifications alone. So you really do have to narrow that down based on what you're interested in pursuing. Like, for example, if you wanted to become an auditor, it would be ISACA would probably be the certifying body you'd have the most interest in. If you were looking towards governance, it would probably be the ISC squared or GIAC. Just so you guys know, there are basically 7 bodies of IT security certifications, and none of them are friends. Okay. And a big mistake, it's not a big mistake, but it's something you need to be aware of, is that, let's say you do a Security Plus, you're going through CyberNow Labs program, you pop out, you're a SOC analyst, and you just want to keep going and blowing, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So your next step is probably your most challenging one, because this is where you'd have to know a little bit about at least what audit is, or at least a little bit of what governance is, or at least a little bit about what vulnerability assessment / pen testing is, to be able to even pick which of these 7 certifying bodies you want to go for. I will tell you, I have seen some fairly sad situations. Oh, and by the way, if anybody ever complains about the $200 for a CompTIA A+ certification, check out some SAN certifications, where it's many, many thousands of dollars for each one of them. So where maybe you go up a pillar only to discover you don't like it and you have to jump to other ones. Everybody's done that, but it's something you want to, avoid if you can, or at least minimize, might be the word I'm looking for. Have you heard of stuff like that, Richard, where they're convinced that they want to become ISC squared and they take all those? Yeah, absolutely. It happens.
Yeah, it's like anything else. I mean, you think you want to go a particular direction, you get there and you realize the shoes don't fit. So you kind of take a step back and analyze where you want to go. So
yeah, I completely agree. Hold on, Richard. I'm sorry. I got another question stuck in from my buddy Don Odinga. Mike, do you have ACSA classes? Hold on a minute. ACSA, Association of California School Administrators. Should we put some classes like that in, Richard?
I have no idea. Probably not.
I just tease people when they throw acronyms at me. See, I get to tease them for a minute now. ACSA, Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture. Hang on. Augusta County Service Authority. I'm pretty sure what he meant was Aruba training. The only time I would take any form of Aruba training is if I knew exactly for sure that I was going to be working with Aruba equipment. And on top of that, I would probably be telling the person I'm working for that they should pay for my training. That's extremely specific kind of thing, guys. Do keep in mind, like the training that Richard does with CyberNow Labs, you're working on a broad spectrum of equipment. And in fact, when it comes to the hardware, you guys don't even really care, right?
No, not at all. And every environment's different. So, yeah.
I like, what percentage of your stuff is virtualized in the CyberNow Labs program? It's pretty much all virtualized, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of what we have that's virtualized.
Yeah, and for that matter, guys, that's going to be more common than not these days. To walk into a situation where you have physical equipment is, well, I mean, it happens, right, Richard?
Yeah, and depending on the size of the environment you're in as well.
But it's much more common to see it in a lighter way than that, virtualized in particular. All right, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, just to piggyback on what you were saying a minute ago about letting them pay for the training. That's actually something I usually heavily recommend when it comes to cybersecurity analysts as well too. When you land in your position within your SOC, most of the time they have training budgets. It's actually a question that I usually recommend people to ask. Do you have a training budget for, your analyst? And they a lot of times do, and you can take advantage of it. I can tell you that the MSSP, or the managed service provider that I worked in, they actually had access to SAN certifications. So that's a pretty heavy duty benefit when you look at it. So let them pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's pretty much the goal. The farther, honestly, I think most people should only be paying for their introductory training. And then from there, you start to go, like you just said, Richard, negotiate that as part of the product and all that kind of thing. And I think they'll do all right.
My brother-in-law has been in cybersecurity for 17 years. He just got done doing another training and certification, and he paid $0. His training budget from work covered it. So an additional certification, more knowledge and experience, and he didn't pay for it, all his company did. So yeah, 100%.
Cool. All right. Well, Richard, it looks like the questions have cooled down. We're about at our hour. That folks know that as we come to the top hour, things start to slow down. Are there any other small things we should add here, Richard, or?
I noticed a couple of people joined actually that were either have attended or were attending CyberNow Labs. So I wanted to throw a real quick shout out to them and say thanks for stopping by. I had shared with some that I was going to be here with you today, and they popped in as well. So that was nice to see a couple of them pop in here today. Cool.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It was great to see everybody. Do keep in mind that this Wednesday we'll be back here. I believe Steve Nicholson, the new Total Seminars SME, will be here on Wednesday. Is that accurate? God, I hate saying stuff like that. I'm being wrong. That is not right. It'll be next week. So Wednesday is going to be a quiet day. And of course, on Friday is Dave Rush's AMA, or DRAMA, or better known as Drama. And do keep in mind that Dave concentrates on using Raspberry Pis. Now, folks, we're not doing a Raspberry Pi course per se. We're showing you guys that you can use very inexpensive hardware to learn a lot and to train yourself on a lot of things for CompTIA Network Plus, A Plus Network Plus, and Security Plus that would normally cost us an actual laptop or something. And Dave shows us how we can do all kinds of stuff, from setting up DHCP servers to making firewalls out of little Raspberry Pi boxes. And that is right here on the Total Seminars channel, 2:00 Central Daylight Time every Friday. So I think that's pretty much all we got. Week after next, Mike. Yes. Okay. Oh, Steve is IT. You know who Steve is IT is? That is Steve Nicholson. He's our SME, Richard. And actually, we need to get him, him, and I on the same channel at the same time. Forget about it. That's absolutely terrifying. All right. Okay, guys. Well, that's all we got. Listen, this is Young Combine. Okay, so Richard, we got to do this little thing. So take your left hand, Richard. Hold it up like this. You're not swearing. Go. Now swing it over here. All right. We're gonna do the Love American style. Okay, bye. And we'll see y'all later. Bye-bye. Y'all be good now. You hear? Bye. It took us a few tries, but we got